What's up, everyone? It's Dakota, and welcome back to another Magic the Gathering video. And we got some pretty big news on Tuesday regarding organized play in Magic. We kind of have some dates for the future Pro Tours that are coming up for 2025, and of course, what Pro Tours players are going to be able to qualify for, and how players are going to be able to qualify for the regional championships coming up, what those formats are going to be, etc. Even promos for the next season of these RCQs coming up. It's going to be very exciting, and with the showcase events and kind of all these big things happening as we kind of return to sort of what we had in the 2019s and the 2018s, where the showcase events are kind of like GPs or reminiscent of GPs, and how players can just directly qualify from the Pro Tour playing in a showcase, as well as having the RCs be another avenue of qualifying for the Pro Tour. All those kinds of things we're going to try to cover and talk about in this video. But of course, before we get too deep into any of that stuff and we actually talk about what organized play is going to look like going into the 2025 year, if you're not subscribed to the channel and you want to see more videos from me where we talk mainly about the Modern and Pioneer format, as well as some other longer form videos, if anything that interests you, please consider subscribing and ring that notification bell so you know when those videos get posted. It's a free, easy way to support me and my content. And if you go down to the links in the description down below, you'll see some of the articles that we're going to be covering over today. If you want to kind of follow along or read them yourself, you can go and follow those links down in the description below. I have a link to my Discord server as well that you can join over there as well. I do greatly appreciate any and all people that kind of take their time to interact and things like that. I love answering questions and kind of having being involved in some of the discussions that we end up coming up with. Finally, there is a link to my personal link for Mana Traders, where if you do not currently have a Mana Traders account and you kind of want to get into Moto and renting cards and just in general kind of helping yourself to set up for these competitive seasons, you can go and follow my link in the description down below to Mana Traders, sign up to make an account, and then you can start renting cards. And on top of that, you support the channel and get 5% off of your monthly subscription, which is really cool. It's kind of a win-win-win all the way around. So if that is something that is you, please go ahead, follow that link, and sign up for Mana Traders today. I've had an account with them for over 2.5 years at this point, and probably about 4 years, I would say, total between two separate stints with them, and I'm just very happy. They're always fast, responsive. Everything about Mana Traders is pretty great. So I implore you that if you're looking to get into playing more Magic on Magic Online, especially, this is like a perfect way that you can play basically whatever decks you want and try to figure out what you want to play for your upcoming RCQs. But with all that said and everything out of the way, let's go ahead and talk about organized play going into the 2025 year. So the first thing we'll look at is the Magic Spotlight Series. This is kind of these GP-esque events that people were talking about when they were kind of first announced, and we have, of course, I believe had the dates immediately when they announced kind of this Spotlight Series. But for those of you that may not know what it is, when I say that they're essentially like GPs were like these huge events that basically anybody could go to. You could see players like Reed Duke, Luis Scott Vargas, Andrea Mengucci going to these events, and you could end up playing against them. And they were like these big open tournaments. They had a pretty big prize pool, and one of the big incentives for it, at least at the time before they had like the Pro Tour system where you could get points based on how you finished and everything like that, making day two, whatever the case may be. Here, they keep some of those things where the top 8 players actually get to qualify for the Pro Tour. And that's kind of what you see here in this first tab, is just kind of explaining that it's an open invite. Basically, anybody can come and play in these tournaments. You pay an entry fee, you're automatically enrolled in the tournament. Not like the regional championships where you have to qualify a certain way, whether it's by winning an RCQ, winning a last chance qualifier. I believe they also leave it open-ended for like special invites as well. I know they do that for the Pro Tour, and I want to say that regional championships are like the same way, but I doubt that those invites are rarely ever attained that way. A lot of the time you're gonna have to win like a qualifier. But in these Spotlight Series events, you don't have to win a prior tournament at like an LGS or anything like that, or win a last chance qualifier. You just immediately go into the Spotlight Series, and I actually look forward to kind of seeing this expanded upon, of course, having it run its course for 2025, and then possibly looking to 2026 of having some further incentives of, maybe if you qualify for the RC, maybe you get buys at one of these, something of that nature. It doesn't necessarily have to be that, and that's probably not like a good thing, because that's not what the RCQs are for. You win the RCQ, you qualify for the RC. Maybe you don't need any further benefit and stuff from that. But either way, like, this is really cool because, again, like, these are like a GP-esque type event. So I think it's really cool. So what you can win, we kind of alluded to it. The main feature of each Spotlight Series, according to this, is a $50,000 in prize money for essentially an open tournament that anybody can go to. This is like a pretty big prize support for the for just essentially an open tournament. I can't remember exactly how much the regional championships are. I want to say like 50,000 or around that mark is kind of the like what you would expect from an RC. So I mean, it is pretty big, and then you also get some pretty sweet promos as well. So it says here, each event will feature its own participation promo kicking off 2025 in Atlanta, Georgia, which I believe is like January 3rd through the 5th. Is pretty interesting because it's like its whole kind of thing. You will get a borderless non-foil copy of Terror of the Peaks featuring art by the iconic Richard Kane Ferguson. Additionally, the top 128 players will also receive a traditional copy or foil copy of this promo. So it's pretty cool. You make the top 128, which I think is basically day 2 of the tournament, or maybe if you just like miss out on day 2ing, or if there's even like a second day, because I don't even know if they've really kind of talked about it. But if it's anything like GPs, you know, they were essentially 2-day events. You play on Saturday, and then if you made the cut, whatever the record was, that you end up playing on Sunday. Also, on top of that, playing Swiss rounds, you'd also play the top 8 as well. But pretty cool promo. I mean, Terror of the Peaks, this isn't necessarily a card that a lot of players have see play like in standard or anything like that. You know, obviously like Commander, this sees a lot of play, but you know, a pretty cool promo nonetheless, and very sweet art. And then you have so the event itself is the Foundations that's going to be coming to Standard. It has another sweet prize, Standard for a year. The winner of this event will receive a Play Booster display case for each Standard legal set released in 2025, that's actually nuts. I didn't even get to read that part of it or even like look that hard at that part, but that's really sweet that you can just get a display case for receive a Play Booster display case for each Standard legal set released in 2025 for winning the event. That's awesome, honestly, on top of, you know, the top 8 also getting to go to the Pro Tour. Also, it'll go from Atlanta to Utrecht, Netherlands, which you can get a essentially a non-foil version of this Cauldron Complete. And then, of course, if you're in the top 128, you get a foil of this promo. So really neat there. That's kind of all the things you can win. The big thing of like going to these tournaments, of course, is going to the Pro Tour, obviously winning the event and getting the big prize, and you know, even all the Play Booster stuff and, you know, the promos and everything like that. That's all great and dandy, but I think for a lot of players, like that Pro Tour invite is a pretty big, you know, incentive to kind of go to these events, and where you'll see some pretty big players that maybe aren't already qualified for the Pro Tour, and we kind of get more information on these showcase events that, you know, maybe players can like double queue for a Pro Tour, you know, extend that invite to another Pro Tour, which, you know, could be pretty neat, and where you could see a lot of some of the best players in the world, you know, maybe not necessarily you know, going to the event to just qualify for like the next Pro Tour or whatever the case may be. Once we kind of have our run of this, we can see kind of what comes for it next. So we're gonna play. Currently, it looks like they only have the Atlanta, Georgia, and the Utrecht showcase events kind of scheduled. Of course, run by Star City Games, they do all the regional championship stuff. Now, after they took it from DreamHack, they do an awesome, great event. I'm not sure about like Fanfinity or anything like that, but as we can kind of see here, and I think something that's going to be very telling as we kind of move through some of these other articles talking about, you know, what's going on with organized play. We have 5 of these showcase events in the United States. There's going to be 8 total in the year, and the United States gets over half of them. You know, 5 events getting hosted by Star City Games, 2 in Europe hosted by Fanfinity, and 1 in Japan hosted by Big Magic, which has not been scheduled yet. Of course, I'm sure that they're all kind of having to work together to make sure that they don't have them on overlapping weekends. Of course, like with Grand Prix and stuff like that, it felt like there was a Grand Prix like every other weekend. And, you know, in between, you know, the Star City Games, you know, their own tour that was going on. So definitely really cool. And, you know, if you live in America, this is going to be awesome because you have 4 other of these big events that are going to be coming up. And of course, if you are able to travel as well, there's only a few that are, you know, in Europe and, you know, 1 in Japan that, you know, reasonably, like if there's a reason to kind of grind these events outside of just going and playing in them, hoping to qualify for the Pro Tour, things like that, or maybe just playing the format that you want to play. You know, if you live in the United States, you're able to go to most of them ideally, and then then also, you could probably plan like one overseas trip as well, which would be pretty neat to experience. And again, like I allude to this, with heavy foreshadowing, or the thinly veiled level of like foreshadowing. These showcase events are going to be really cool. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. The hope is that I can try to go to one of these. I don't know if Atlanta, Georgia is going to be possible, but I would really like to play in one of these events and stuff. So I think if you have the ability to, go ahead and do so. Star City Games puts on a great event. I've been to SCG cons before they took over the regional championships. Of course, I went to the regional championship in Washington, D.C., and it was a lot of fun, a lot of cool vendors, a lot of cool people, a lot of cool events going on. I cannot speak any higher of Star City Games. And I kind of hope that, past 2025 into 2026, which I believe they have a contract through 2025, that they renew it and they kind of take it over. Or if someone else takes it over, they basically just like copy paste what Star City Games has been doing, which I think would be pretty hard at this point. I think Star City Games should be pretty locked in for doing these for the foreseeable future. But that is going to do it for the showcase events. This is kind of like outside of like the normal of what we've seen from these qualifier events and how you qualify for the Pro Tour. Now let's kind of look at the RCQs and eventually what some of the Pro Tour stuff can look like going forward. So as we know, the showcase events are kind of like this little outlier in terms of what we've had and what we've gotten to essentially qualify for the Pro Tour. There's a few avenues of doing so, but of course, like one of the basic ones, and seems like one of the most straightforward, is playing an RCQ, win the RCQ, go to the RC, do well in the RC, and essentially qualify. In this case, now for future regionals, is getting top 32 in those tournaments to get your Pro Tour invite. So a little bit harder, but more Worlds invites. So, can we really be mad about it? But this is kind of the information that we have to qualify for Pro Tour 3 in 2025 and some of the cool promos and stuff that you can get. So in the third round of 2024-2025 RCQs will begin on November 16th, 2024, and they will run until March 22nd of 2025. All WPN stores, as well as destination event organizers, will be running RCQs that feed into the third round of regional championships for 2024-2025 during this window. Those will take place around spring of 2025, which I don't believe. I mean, we have Charlotte, North Carolina, and Portland, Oregon as the kind of first regional championships taking place in 2025. But we don't know, anything kind of past that regional championship yet, and or where the other two destinations are going to be. Now that Star City Games is saying they're going to be able to host two regional championships, kind of each for each qualifying season, that you can qualify for one or qualify for the other. But I'm sure either. I wouldn't expect necessarily at the World Championship to find out where those regional championships are. If we do, great. But I would imagine maybe during one of the showcases, if we have coverage for any of them, that Star City Games will be sure to announce that either at one of the showcase events or at the regional championship in either Portland or Charlotte, North Carolina. But these RCQ seasons, RCQs run during this round can be scheduled at participating WPN stores as standard constructed or limited. Larger events are designated as destination qualifiers. Events run in larger venues such as hotel ballrooms, conventions may run as other constructed formats. And this kind of goes in with like the big push that we have for standard, right? I think we kind of expected standard to have this. We had the, currently in the modern RCQ season right now and working through that. And of course, when we get to mid-November, we're going to be going into standard, and standard is going to be going on. I think that's like 4 months basically, or just over 4 months. Or no, actually that's like 5 months, right? 4. No, my math's wrong. Either way, we have like midway through November, all of December, January, February, and most of March to play standard, of course, kind of featuring this Foundations format where, it's essentially a standard legal set that's going to be legal in standard for like 4 or 5 years, something crazy on top of, our typical rotation for sets in standard, which I believe is like a 3-year rotation, which I think we just had one pretty recently. The format's great and everything like that, so I think a pretty good time, after kind of the miserable-ish, modern RCQ season that we have, to have a pretty diverse and a pretty sweet standard metagame going into the 2025 year, where we're going to have these qualifiers taking place at the end of 2024. And of course, also going into some of these showcase events as well. So additionally, the product lineup for Limited may differ depending on when the event is taking place. Of course, usually it's like whatever the and I believe it has to be whatever current standard legal set it is. So currently right now, if they were to start today, you would, in what stores are doing now during the modern RCQ season, is you see like Duskmore Unlimited kind of taking place there. So some pretty sweet promos. We have the November, for the next RCQ season, we have Mayhem Devil being the looks like the participation promo. So make it stand out, much more variation of Mayhem Devil sporting the artwork from, I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce that name, but that artwork is pretty sweet. And of course we have a Force of Despair as well. A card that's not typically seen really any play in Modern, and kind of did as like a tech kind of thing for the, I guess probably even now for like maybe Boros if people are, feeling that frisky, but a lot of stuff for like Nadu and stuff. You just play like Force of Despair, which is like a card that I've seen some people play. So regional championships for MagicCon Atlanta's Pro Tour, which we know is the first Pro Tour scheduled, is scheduled between April 19th and June 1st, 2025. And the format for this round will be standard constructed. So regional championships for MagicCon. All right, that's pretty sweet. So the top finishers of these regional will earn an invitation to MagicCon Atlanta's Pro Tour, with invites varying from region. The winners of this of each regional championship, as well as the finalists for the USA, Canada, EMEA, and Japan, will qualify for the World Championship 2025, which will be held later in 2025, which I believe we have the date for. And this is kind of where there's some disparity, where we start to have problems, all right, with the constructed formats. So we're changing up when we show off the promo cards for the regional championships to announce them a little closer to when the round takes place. Since April 19, 2025 is a long time away, there's a regional championship round taking place between now and then. And we will have news on that promo card is in early 2025. So the formats for the 2025-2026 RCQ rounds, of course we have up through March figured out. So I'm assuming that, probably around the beginning of April, or like the very, I guess how late it is in March, probably around the beginning of April, we'll see, these, the round 1 of 2025-2026 taking place. So the 2025-2026 round 1, starting around quarter 2 of 2025, is going to be Modern Constructed Limited. All right, that's kind of, I guess kind of jumping out of turn, because typically, we've had this rotation of, standard, Pioneer, Modern, or, wherever you want to start. It's just kind of gone in that direction. 2025-2026, starting around quarter 3 of 2025, is going to be standard, constructed, and limited. Okay. And then round 3 around quarter 4 is going to be standard constructed again. So we're going to have back-to-back standard constructed events, which I thought this was a flip-flop. I thought we were going to have essentially standard, modern, but clearly I am wrong there. So these are like essentially your qualifiers that you're going to be looking at in 2025 and 2026 to qualify for the Pro Tour and any of the major events and stuff going on there. And of course, it gives some of the tournament organizers and like the premier path essentially to getting to the World Championship and by extension, the Pro Tour. So this has obviously been kind of a big thing in the community, because Pioneer is very noticeably left off, when I think currently right now as it stands, I think as far as eternal constructed formats, I think Pioneer is one of the best formats currently, even though you can argue that like there's a lot of Rakdos decks going on, that whatever, that maybe the format's not fun because Control's there, and everyone hates Control. Even I hate Control, playing this game for over 10 years at this point. But nonetheless, I think Pioneer is in a pretty diverse spot right now. I've been playing in a lot of the Mana Trader stuff, and I don't think I've played against the same deck twice in a row. I mean, I think I've played like 8 or 9 different matches at different times, and I have not ran into the same matchup. And I think even when I was testing for the regional championship, the only time I ever played against the same deck is when I was play testing with Randy. So I mean, like, there's definitely a very diverse metagame, and the fact that I think Pioneer is just starting to get good. I think people are really enjoying these regional championships featuring the Pioneer format, and it's just left out of 2025, 2026. Hopefully maybe this changes, where like maybe the quarter 4 one can go back to Pioneer, and maybe we just go like standard, modern, standard, Pioneer, standard, modern, like that sort of thing, if you want to feature standard more as like your constructed event of choice. I also think that stores should just have the option to run standard at their store. While it might not be ideal necessarily for other players, like I only play standard, and the season just happens to qualify you for a regional championship that would be featuring the modern format or the Pioneer format, maybe wouldn't be that fun. But as it stands, I think that should just be something that you do. considering that, standard seems to be the format that they want to push. So, that definitely has a point of contention, but we'll kind of talk about that towards the end here. But we will move on to what the Pro Tour schedule is going to look like. If you end up getting top 32 in one of these regional championships, or you end up taking down one of the showcase events, getting to the top 8 there. I'll consider top 8 basically taking it down. That would be more than anything that I've accomplished at like those kind of level of events. But, we'll kind of look at what players are playing for and what they're looking to get into coming into the 2025, 2026 year. Well, I guess more 2025 year, leading up to the World Championship number 31. So let me get in all the smoke. In 2025, MagicCons return for a year filled with exciting activities, fan favorite content, special guests, and high-level competitive play. There are 3 MagicCons planned for 2025. Each features an associated Pro Tour. So we have February 21st to the 23rd is going to be the first Pro Tour of 2025, which is going to be at MagicCon Chicago, featuring the first Pro Tour of the 2025 season. June 20th through the 22nd is going to be MagicCon Las Vegas, which is going to be the second Pro Tour. And then September 26th to the 28th is MagicCon Atlanta, featuring the third Pro Tour. MagicCons host a wide array of ways to celebrate Magic, panels featuring special guests, appearances by Magic artists, vendors, immersive experiences, and tons of events where you can play Magic. We'll have more to share about each specific event offerings closer to them, but an example of what you can expect, check out the 2024 MagicCon Las Vegas website. So, as you probably noticed, there is no international Pro Tour. There's no international MagicCon, whatever the case may be. And this is kind of, I think for a lot of people, this sucks. I think for me, it gives like mixed emotions. For me personally, I've never qualified for the Pro Tour. Obviously, that is the dream one day, is to play in a Pro Tour and then hopefully do well in that Pro Tour. There's a lot of players that do extremely well, in their first Pro Tour, and I could only ever dream of even qualifying for the Pro Tour. But I think for a lot of players, especially the ones that are pretty ingrained, they're, essentially these perennial players on the tour, they like these international, events. I think it's really cool that we can have, 1 or 2 in the United States. Like if you want to have the World Championship in Las Vegas every year, whatever the case may be, sure, I'm sure that's fine. I don't think anybody's really going to necessarily be upset by something like that. But to have essentially every MagicCon that features a Pro Tour end up being in the United States. And granted, like these are some great locations, like Chicago, Las Vegas, Atlanta, those are really cool. And of course, like the World Championship is going to be featured somewhere else. Maybe it won't be in Las Vegas, or maybe they will go back to Las Vegas and we'll have 2 essentially high level events in Las Vegas, whatever the case may be. But it does kind of suck that, I think for a lot of people, it was like, okay, this would be really cool, to qualify for the Pro Tour. And it's like in Kyoto, Japan, or something like that would be, one of those things, or even like in Utrecht. There's definitely a lot of Pro Tours that have taken place, and I think for, at least for me as like a content creator, like I remember like Modern Horizons 3 Pro Tour, that kind of sucked to get up like that early, and I already have trouble sleeping as it is, being a night shift person, that, trying to go to sleep at a reasonable time and then getting up to watch the Pro Tour and try to, go game by game, match by match on, especially the top 8, it is kind of a pain, like first world problems over here. But I think in general that it's probably going to end up working out. I think there's obviously a strategic reason for this, but overall I don't think I like it from the standpoint of, it would be really cool that this opportunity kind of keeps coming up, so then essentially the opportunity's out there, so then like I have a chance, or other players have a chance of getting to kind of go and see the world and stuff like that. And I think that's kind of like something that was promised when we got the Magic Pro League, was that players will know your name, see the world and everything. And again, while at least some of these locations are really cool, there's a lot of stuff to do there and everything. There's a lot of history with these cities and towns, whatever that are going to be featuring the Pro Tour. Just overall, I think is a little disheartening to not see anything internationally coming up in the 2025 format. I mean, unless Worlds is to be announced currently, I would expect it to take place in Las Vegas, but I also, maybe it'll be, in overseas, maybe we'll see like Europe or something like that, which would be pretty cool. It definitely, again, would probably suck for, coverage and content creation, whatever. But, I also think it'd be really cool. It'd be a lot of fun. But yeah, that's kind of looking to organize play, and what's going on is pretty long-winded. I have a lot of thoughts and opinions about this, because I think it's something that for a lot of people, this is important. This is, essentially what competitive players are playing towards. This is different paths and things that you can take to get to the Pro Tour. There's ways to qualify on Arena, there's ways to qualify on Magic Online. But I think for a lot of players, and at least like myself included, I would prefer, as miserable as it is sometimes, traveling 3 or 4 hours early in the morning to go to an event where I can play paper Magic against real people. And, for me, even like, going 0-2, 0-3 in a tournament like that, and just being around that kind of atmosphere means more to me than, going, a 10-second shuffle from my bedroom to my computer to go play an event online where, I'm in my own space. I can go and get my drink or whatever I want. I can go use the bathroom, things like that. And, I just feel better about playing in paper than I do online. But again, for, someone in the United States, like, this is great because, theoretically, if I somehow qualify for any of these, then it's within like a reasonable distance where, you're essentially not worrying about international flights, passports, or anything like that. But it does kind of suck for, international players. I think they kind of get shafted on this. I don't know how hard, but, I would say pretty hard for the fact that, again, they're all taking place in the United States. But, let me know what your thoughts are in the comments down below. I'd love to hear kind of your thoughts and opinions on, the upcoming RCQ seasons, the showcase events, how you feel about Standard, the lack of, international Pro Tours or Magic Cons or anything like that. And, just kind of like the United States kind of dominating the amount of events that they end up getting. But, let me know what you think in the comments down below. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We'll kind of, keep people posted and doing a lot of coverage of the World Championship taking place next weekend. So it's going to be a lot of fun. And, again, I went pretty deep and pretty hard, I think, on Modern Horizons 3, and I plan on trying to go a little bit deeper and maybe a little bit more analytical or something like that. One of those kind of buzzwords, so keep an eye out for that. Of course, I do appreciate all the support and everything. Y'all are awesome. Take it easy, and I will see you all in the next video.